Writing equations of circles. This is going to get fun, guys. Some of it's very basic and some of it you're going to run into issues with. So make sure to pay attention, write down all the notes, and ask lots of questions. And maybe even come to live class. This is definitely going to be an EOC question. So you definitely want to figure this one out. As we talked about, having questions in the pocket and knowing whether you'll be prepared to get one right. If you get this skill, you will have at least 2 in the pocket because there's usually at least 2 circle questions. So H and K is always going to be the center of your circle. So just like we talked about before, your H and K is going to be the center of your circle. H is always your X value. K is always your Y value. X and Y is a point on the circle. That means all of these. So this one, this one, this one, this one. All of these are considered X and Y on this circle. Anything that touches the circle and makes the circle is the XY portion of our standard form of an equation of a circle. R is going to be your radius, and that's the distance from center to any point on the circle. The equation of circle is used to graph a circle or find parts of the circle such as the center, the radius, or a point on the circle. So from that, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, you can answer questions about center, a given point, and the radius of a circle, and even graph it. So with that said, looking at our x squared plus y squared equals 25 example. Remember, we are going with x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared to answer these questions. So radius, in this case, this is radius squared. So the radius squared is 25. So the radius is the square root of 25, which we do know in this case is 5. So the radius for number 1 is going to be 5. Our center is our h value and our k value. We have no h and we have no k, so center is going to be at the origin 0, 0. Now looking at number 2, x minus h plus y minus k squared equals radius squared. So in this case, my h value, there's a plus there. It's supposed to be a minus. That means we plugged in a negative 8. Negative 8 is what turned that into a plus. Then here we have a minus and a minus, so we're good there. And so our k value is that positive 3. So hk, so our center is going to be negative 8, 3. And then our radius is going to be the square root of 100, because 100 is radius squared. So the square root of 100 is 10, so our radius is 10. With that said, be careful. What is my diameter? Do not forget that diameter is 2 times radius. It is not the square root of 100. It is not the square root of 100. It is not necessarily... It is not 100. It's 2 times 10, so it's 20. Your diameter is 20. Most of you, for some reason in this lesson, if I all of a sudden ask you for a diameter, you're going to tell me 100 because that's radius squared. And radius squared is not the same thing as 2 times radius because radius is half of the diameter. Look at number 3. So x minus h squared plus, again, y minus k squared equals radius squared. So x minus h, in this case, our h is going to be 4. Our k value, there isn't one, so then our center is 4, 0. Our radius squared is 1, so that means we're going to take the square root of 1, which is 1. So our radius is 1. If our radius is our 1, then what is diameter? 2, right? Because it's not 1 times 1 or 1 squared. It's 2 times the radius. So it'll be 2 units long. Pause the video and see if you can do number 4, 5, and 6 and identify the center, the radius from those equations. Please try. All right, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals radius squared. X minus h minus 5, so h is a positive 5. K, that's a minus, which turned into a positive, so that means k is going to be a negative 1 because that's what turns that minus into a positive. So our center is 5, negative 1. Our radius squared is 144, so radius squared equals 144. To get the square off that, we're going to take the root and so our radius is going to be 12. It's going to be 12 units long, which means our diameter is going to be 24, not 144. Diameter is 24. Look at number 5. So x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals 18. Or I'm sorry, equals r squared. R squared equals 18. So the radius is the square root of 18. And we can just leave it as the square root of 18. Not necessarily have to go to the decimal portion at this point. If you do, that's fine. How about give me 2 places after the decimal minimally if you do decide to go ahead and plug that in. But the radius is the square root of 18. And then, so our h value, there isn't one. So we know that it's going to be 0. Our k value, it's a minus, but turn into a plus. So it's going to be negative 2. So our center is 0, negative 2. And our radius is the square root of 18. So our center here, x minus h, is going to be 0. Y minus k is 0. So that's our center. Radius squared equals 16. So to get radius by itself, it's going to be the square root of 16, which is going to be 4. Now, let's write the equation of the circle with a given center and the radius. So we know it's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals radius squared. So x minus h, in this case, h is 0, y minus 0, because k is 0, equals radius squared, so 4 squared. This is not a good equation, guys. You're going to simplify that. So it's going to be x squared plus y squared, because there's a bunch of zeros there, equal 16, because 4 squared is 16. Number 2, we have x, got excited, x minus h. So it's going to be x minus 2, because that's a positive 2. So x minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 minus 3, which is going to make that a positive 3 squared, equals 15 squared. Now 15 squared can be multiplied, so we're going to do 15 times 15. That gives us 225. So our correct equation is x minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared. Be careful not to leave off these squares. If you leave them off, it is incorrect. No partial credit. So I always tell people to write x minus squared, y minus squared equals, and then you know it's r squared. And then plug in from there. So in that case, I have a negative 7. So minus 7. And then y minus 0. And then I know it's 10 squared. And then I'm just going to clean that up, because minus we know is going to be plus. So x plus 7 squared plus y minus 0 squared, so that's just y squared, equals 10 squared, which is 100. If our radius is 10, what is the diameter? Be careful. Diameter is going to be 20. Pause the video and see if you can correctly write the equation for number 4, number 5, and number 6, and then start it back and check it out. See if you got it right. So it's going to be x plus 5 squared, y plus 1 squared equals 4, because our radius is 2 squared. Minus makes it a positive, and minus makes it a positive again. Make sure you double check to make sure you have your squareds, because that's one thing that a lot of students like to do, is just leave that part off. Number 5, it's going to be x squared plus y squared equals radius squared, and 1 squared is still just 1. And last but not least, x minus 4 squared, y minus 8 squared equals 22 squared, which is 484. So this is the correct form for your equation. Not left in 22 raised to the second power, or 22 squared, not minus, not missing your squares, making sure you have an x and a y, not 2 x's by accident. So pay really close attention, because guys, if you get one of these as an EOC question, this is as straightforward as it possibly can get. It will not get easier than this. Now, taking the same skill and putting it on a graph. So I have minus 1, which means we know h is 1 and k is 1. So that's my center, because remember, hk is center. And then it says equal 9s, and that's radius squared equals 9. So we're going to square root it. Radius is going to equal 3. So we're going to go over here and go to 1, 1. Go up 3 straight, to the right 3 straight, down 3, and then to the left 3. And then try not to make it a square or a box. It is somewhat of a circle. We want it to be a circle. We're graphing a circle. And then you have your circle graphed with a radius length of 3. All right, so from the graph, we see we need our HK and we need our radius. So H is getting -1, and then it didn't go up. So it's -1, 0. And our radius is 2. Now, pay very close attention. This one is not numbered, so you can assume 1. But one thing I watch a lot of time happen is you don't look at the way they're counting. So, like, think Delta Math worksheet, and they have like 2, 4, 6. So each one is 2. It'll look like 2 boxes, but if they're worth 2 each, then that's going to be 4. So just make sure to pay attention to the units at which they are counting. So our equation is going to be x plus 1 squared, because that's a minus, and then y squared equals our radius squared, which is 4. And that just happens to be 4. No coincidence, not even related to the fact that the diameter is 4, but the radius squared is 4. All right, guys, that is the beginning of writing equations of a circle and interpreting their parts. If you need me, I'll see you at tutoring.